The following is a presentation of 13ABC Action News. Now, your table is ready. Join 13ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here on this Sunday afternoon here in the battleground state of Ohio. And folks, we are getting down to the nitty-gritty. We are almost 1 week away from heading to the voting booth for election year 2012. Let's take a look at the latest polls that we have as of our time taping on Thursday of this past week. And it is showing a tight race nationally speaking. When we look at the numbers and we go down the line looking at all of these polls, starting with the Associated Press showing Governor Mitt Romney leading 47 to 45. ABC, Washington Post showing Governor Romney leading 49 to 48. The Gallup poll showing Governor Romney leading 50 to 47. And we've got two more to show you here. NBC Wall Street Journal showing Governor Romney leading tied at 47-47. And then CBS showing that President Obama is leading there 48 to 46%. However, in all of these polls, there is a margin of error there, folks, which basically makes this a statistical dead heat. We are so glad to have with us today, joining us via Skype from New Orleans, the Big Easy, Wayne Allen Root. He is a 2008 vice presidential candidate, and we appreciate you taking some time and joining us. You are better known as a Vegas odds maker. That's why you're here today, and we appreciate you taking some time to join us on the Roundtable.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Let me mention that you're seeing me in a hotel room, so I can't quite change the background for all of you, but I'm here to address the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I got up early after a late flight just for you in Toledo, so a pleasure to be on, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, we are excited to have you on here. The main reason, and when we talked before we actually did this interview today, we were talking about how when you look at this, and I want to let people know about your background as far as making the odds on this race. How did you get into this, and what do you look at when you make a good bet, so to speak?
Well, listen, my career began as a sports odds maker and prognosticator, and I would say arguably one of the best, if not the best, in the history of this business, because I'm the only one with a star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars. I've got a star in the sidewalk of Las Vegas. Only 50 people in the world were ever honored that way. So I proved I was very good at sports. And about 10 years ago, I got involved in politics. And in addition to winning the Libertarian vice presidential nomination in the last election, I've made a lot of predictions in the media. And most of them have been very, very accurate, more accurate than most pollsters have been. As an example, in 2004 on CNBC, a couple of days before the Bush-Kerry presidential election, the entire world, every pollster was picking Kerry to win, John Kerry. I picked Bush by 3 points popular and 30 to 35 electorally. He won by exactly 3 and 35. Newsmax magazine called it the most accurate prediction of the entire 2004 presidential election. And all throughout this 2012 election, Jeff, I've been predicting Mitt Romney when no one else was. In December, before the Republican primaries even began, I picked Romney to win in a landslide the Republican nomination. And, of course, he did romp to the nomination, despite the fact that every step of the way, polls showed he was down by 20 points to Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum and Rick Perry. So I'm very proud of that fact. And Herman Cain, by the way. I'm very proud of that fact. And then when he won the nomination back in May, I predicted a landslide presidential win for Mitt Romney when the polls showed Obama leading. And then about 3 weeks ago, I doubled down and said, even though Obama was leading by 1 or 2 or 3 in every poll at that point 3 weeks ago, I said I am betting Mitt Romney in a landslide, electoral landslide. No one could understand how I could be the only guy in the country to say that, why I put my reputation on the line, what I based it on. But I'm telling you, it's happening. It's happening before our very eyes. Those polls that all show Romney leading are mimicking the Reagan-Carter race of 1980. It's going exactly the way I thought it would go. Carter big, Carter big, Carter big. At the last minute, major Reagan move. And then when people walked in the voting booth, everybody voted Reagan because of the economy. That's exactly what I predicted would happen.
Mr. Root, Mr. Root, I wanted to ask real quick, and I apologize to the folks at home. We're getting a little bit of a delay, of course, technology here in 2012 and our cell lines and all that stuff, but we can still see you good and clear. We appreciate that. But once again, Wayne Allen Root joining us from down in New Orleans, the Big Easy, addressing a conference down, an economic conference down there. And you said, and when we started the show, we talked about those polls showing the national race. And I don't know if you remember this, I'm sure you do, but back in 2000, I was struck by Tom Brokaw and Tim Russert sitting on the desk, the news desk that night, waiting for the returns to come in as far as President Bush, then Governor Bush, and also Al Gore, and waiting for those returns to come in. And I remember Tim Russert taking his marker board and writing Florida, Florida, Florida. Do you see that playing out this year with Ohio, Ohio, Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's all Ohio all the time. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and all we ever hear, even though Nevada is probably the ultimate battleground state as well, all we ever hear about is Ohio. The entire election will probably come down to Ohio. Although, here's the interesting thing, Jeff. In the last 2 weeks, Romney has broken so big away from the pack in certain states that Obama won 4 years ago. Florida is basically written off. I don't know if you guys are hearing the kind of news I'm hearing, but Romney's team has literally agreed, and Obama's team is packing up and moving out of Florida because it's going to Romney. Same thing happened in North Carolina, and same thing is happening in Virginia. Those states all went for Obama in 2008, and they're all pretty much locked up at this point, the experts agree, for Mitt Romney. So it's possible Romney could still win this election without Ohio, even though Ohio is still the bellwether state, the most important state, the biggest prize, the biggest piece of the puzzle, whatever words you want to use, Ohio is. For the first time, it is possible for Romney to win with Florida, with Virginia, with North Carolina, with Indiana, with Iowa and New Hampshire, states he's now up by one. It's possible to win without Ohio, but I don't think anybody wants to take that chance.
Let me ask you real quick. Obviously, and what you're saying today is not going to make a lot of people happy, especially in these parts. Lucas County, where we are located, this part of Ohio, very linked to manufacturing. A lot of talk around here is that Lucas County will definitely go for the president because of the links to the auto industry. You have a number of blue-collar workers here who will go to the polls, who are out already on the ground support as far as the president is concerned. How can you tell them and be so certain that this is going to go the way you see it?
Well, first of all, one of the failings, one of the only failings I've seen in Mitt Romney, my big argument is he's made a very poor case about the auto industry. I would have been much stronger in my argument against what Barack Obama did. And I know this isn't a political interview. I'm here more as a pollster and a prognosticator, an odds maker, a gut instinct guy to tell you what I think's going to happen. But I would argue to all those workers that Obama did not save the auto industry. He saved the auto union. He took $25 billion of taxpayer money and he paid off one group that supported him in the election. That's not fair to the rest of us. And it didn't save the auto industry. The auto industry still has to make it on their own. He went into bankruptcy court the same way Romney would have done. But Obama changed the rules in bankruptcy court and gave ownership to the unions. I would have argued that if I was Romney in the debates, I would have argued very strenuously that handing any industry $25 billion of taxpayer money is not the way the American people should solve a problem, because our kids and grandkids will be paying that interest 100 years from now. It just added to the debt another $25 billion. He didn't save anything, and all he did was make sure that auto workers who belong to a union got their pensions in whole, and those who were non-union lost their pensions. Completely unfair, some would argue almost criminal. So it wasn't like he did a good thing. He was just rewarding the auto unions that supported him in the election. And she was on the other foot. I don't think those union workers would be too happy if a president took $25 billion of their children's money and used it to bail out another industry.
We want to talk a little bit about the influences that are out there. You and I discussed on the phone, you were talking about newspaper endorsements, the debates themselves. What is it, in your estimation, that is going to sway this vote? The debates are over now. So obviously we are in the throes of the sprint to the finish. Is there anything that will sway this vote, or is it, in your estimation, by your numbers and what you're putting together, people have their minds made up?
Well, listen, there's always a sliver of people that you want to go after in the last week, the last 2 weeks, the last days. You never want to give up. You want to fight to the last second. It's never lost. It's never won until they walk in that voting booth or they mark their absentee ballots. If I'm Romney, if I'm Obama, I fight to the last second, and you never know how people change their minds. But in my opinion, in my estimation, this is turning out to be Reagan Carter all over again. And by the way, historically, Jeff, almost every presidential election in modern American history, the undecided vote in the last month, forget about the last 2 weeks, anyone who was undecided with 1 month to go, they break about 75% for the challenger. That's one of the reasons I always question the polls. The polls did not take into account the portion of the electorate that was undecided would almost surely vote for Mitt Romney, because even if they can't admit it to themselves, because they like the president and they think he's a good guy and they think, he's the president of the United States, if they haven't decided to vote for the incumbent president by 1 month to go before the election, history says they will always walk in the voting booth and pull the lever for the challenger. So that's the reason Reagan did so well against Carter, and the economy, of course. And in this case, same thing. The economy is the number one issue everywhere in this country, from Ohio to where I live in Nevada.
Let me ask you a question as far as from a candidate's perspective. Obviously, running for office in 2008 for one of the highest offices in the land. In fact, they always say the vice president is just a heartbeat away from having the top job. What are these guys going through right now? And I ask you, the second question is your endorsement of third-party candidates and looking at the need in this country for more than two voices.
Well, listen, I was a third-party candidate. There's no question about that. I happen to be a Vegas pollster and odds maker and prognosticator who's very fair and honest in who I look at. And if I thought Romney was going to lose, I would tell you. But I also want to disclose that I have endorsed Mitt Romney for president of the United States. I'm not supporting a third-party candidate in this election because I think it's that important for our kids' future and for my businesses that are all struggling. I'm a small businessman, and every single business I own is struggling right now in this terrible Obama economy.
Is there a need for a third voice, though? I guess is more of my question.
Jeff, I'd love a third voice and a fourth voice and even a fifth voice, like many other countries with a parliamentary system have. England, Canada, Germany, Israel, all of them allow, in a parliamentary system, third parties to be very valuable. You can't win the majority without getting help from a third party, so you need one to form a coalition, so they give them tremendous power. But like it or not, the way the world works is the way the world works. And in the United States, third parties just don't have any power. That's why I left the Libertarian Party recently to rejoin the Republican Party, because you gotta live in the real world, and I wanted to make a difference for my 4 kids and my future grandkids. I want to elect somebody, I want to win, and I want to change the system, and the only way to do that is to be the Republican or a Democrat.
And tell me about what these guys are going through as a candidate. Obviously, not on par with probably what you went through as far as the coffers and what you had at your disposal for buying ad time and whatnot, but what are these guys going through these last few days?
I'll come to 2 words: hell and nausea. There just isn't enough time in the day to fulfill all the requests when you're a candidate for president or vice president of the United States, or maybe I should say when you're on a presidential ticket. There just isn't enough time in the day for all the media interviews, the radio, the TV, the print, newspaper, the internet. There isn't enough time in the day for all the speeches all over the country, all the dinners, all the fundraisers. The demands on your time are the most overwhelming thing you will ever go through in your lifetime. But by the way, in addition to being nauseating and exhausting, it's also exhilarating, and it's the greatest moment of your life. It's something to talk about for the rest of your life. It's your legacy, and it's the only reason I'm on your affiliate in Toledo right now. If I hadn't been a vice presidential nominee, you probably wouldn't care about my opinion. So it's a wonderful honor to once in your life or more be part of a presidential ticket, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
He's got a track record of calling the race in 2004, also in 2008. We are so appreciative to have Wayne Allen Root join us here via Skype down in New Orleans today. Mr. Root, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and maybe a few days we'll look back at this interview and then grade and see how we did.
Well, I'm the only one in the country I know of that's predicted a Romney electoral landslide. So if I'm right, let's do it the day after the election or the week after the election, and hopefully you'll be congratulating me. If not, you'll be calling me a bum. That's the business.
And also, you know, and before I let you go, there has been that speculation out there that we might see what we saw in 2000 with a winner of the popular vote, a winner of the Electoral College. You don't see that?
I don't see it. You know, the one thing I never mentioned in this interview, and I'll tell you why I think Romney's going to win in a landslide other than the economy and why things are breaking his way, is that, in my opinion, Jeff, the big focus of 2008 was the minority vote that came out for Barack Obama. And in 2012, I believe the big focus of the election that everyone will be talking about the next day will be the gigantic Christian vote that comes out for Mitt Romney. 20 million evangelicals didn't vote in the 2008 election, and Obama only won the election by 9 million votes. 20 million stayed home because they weren't excited by John McCain or Barack Obama. But now you've got those same 20 million and every other Christian conservative in this country motivated to defeat Barack Obama because they feel like he's been very anti-religion, anti-faith, anti-Christian in the last 4 years with a lot of his executive orders and a lot of his decisions on contraception, et cetera, and a lot of his decisions intruding, asking government to intrude on churches. So all things considered, I believe the story of this election will be the massive turnout of Christian faith-based voters, Catholic voters. All of them will make a big difference and lead to what I believe will be a Romney landslide, a very different electorate turnout than in 2008, and that will be the difference.
As we said, we will keep this on file and look back on it in a few days and see if you were right or you were wrong. Wayne Allen Root, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Roundtable.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you for having me on. My website, by the way, root4america.com, where I'll have all my daily updates.
All right, Mr. Root, thank you so much. And stay right there here on the Roundtable for this Sunday. When we come back, we will look back at some of the work that 13 ABC's Bill Horman has done in looking at those ads out there, the truth test. We show you more right after this.